Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Any doubt till now? Self-concept, concept of self, then what else? Self as subject and object, then kinds of self, two identities. Any doubt? Amal, any doubt? Did you go through the textbook, everyone? Sneha, if you have not got the text from school, you have it online.
Yes, ma'am. I have opened the PDF.
Okay. Tishma, switch on the video. Okay. Yes. So the next topic will be cognitive and behavioral aspects of self. Write down. Cognitive and behavioral aspects of self. Cognitive and behavioral aspects of self. Okay. Aishwarya, start reading.
Psychologists from all parts of the world have shown interest in the study of self. These studies have brought out many aspects of our behavior related to self. As indicated earlier, all of us carry within us a sense of who we are and what makes us different from everyone else. We cling to our personal and social identities and feel safe in the knowledge that it remains stable in our lifetime. The way we perceive ourselves and the ideas we hold about our competencies and attributes is also called self-concept.
Yeah, it is also called self-concept. That is the general thing that we discussed yesterday, the concept of self. It is called self-concept. The idea or how we view our own self or ourselves, our capabilities, our competencies, how we view our own self, that is called the self-concept. Okay, that is a general term given to these ideas and concepts about our own self. Okay, underline that and keep. Then,
At a very general level, this view of oneself is overall either positive or negative.
yes, that's it. If you have good thoughts about yourself, good ideas about yourself, then that will be a positive attitude, a positive self-concept. Okay. So in general, when we say about a self-concept in general level, when we say generally, we say it as either positive or negative. Understood. So if you think that you are very good at doing something, you are a very good person, then you have all the positive capabilities, positive qualities, characteristics and all, then generally we say you are having a positive self-concept, positive self towards yourself. But if you think that I'm not good for anything, I am worthless, I am not valued by anybody, then that is a what kind of a viewpoint? Negative viewpoint. So that will be negative self. Generally, we say that our self concept is either positive or negative. Generally. Now we'll see what is specific in that. Yes, I should continue.
At a more specific level, a person may have a very positive view of her or his athletic bravery, but a negative view of his or her academic talents. At an even more specific level, one may have a positive self-concept about one's reading ability, but a negative 1. About one's mathematical skills. Finding out an individual's self concept is not easy. The most frequently used method involves asking the person about herself or himself.
Yeah. So at more specific level, what is it? It's like going into the depths and taking specific examples from your life. For example, a person may have a positive or negative view about the athletic behavior. How good he or she is in the athletic sports or such field, or it may be academics. So some people might be good at academics, some people might think that they are not good at academics. Similarly, with it changes with other field, it changes from person to person also. So at specific levels, we take specific examples and hold a positive or negative concept about that particular capability. Understood. In general, we say we have either positive or negative viewpoints or negative concept about the self. So self concept is either positive or negative at general level. When it comes to specific level, what happens? We take specific things, specific examples from our lives or specific domains from our lives, and then we judge it as either positive or negative. If we are good at something, then we consider that as a positive thing, positive part of ourselves. Suppose if you are a good artist, then you are positive towards that domain of your life, towards the artistic domain. Understood? Yes. So there are two levels, general level, specific level for the self concept. And what is the self concept? Your general idea of who you are, what are your capabilities, what are your competencies. That generally forms the self concept. Got it? Clear? Amal? Okay. Others? Sana? Clear? Okay.
Ma'am,
Now, yes.
does the self concept of our and the real us will differ?
Yes. Yes, it might differ. In some theories, yesterday when I told you there are different kinds of self, if you Google, you will know ideal self, real self, and all. So, according to different theoretical principles, there are even more types of kinds of self. Okay. In one of the theories, it is said there is one ideal self. This is not related to something that we are discussing now. It's extra information. One is ideal self, one is real self. Hmm? What is the difference between ideal self and real self? Ideal self is something that you're aspiring to become. Hmm? Real self is something that you are something right now. Understood? And again, um, you might you might be very rude to people usually, and then you think that you are a very kind person to everyone. So again, that will differ, isn't it? Your real self and the self that you think you really are, that is also different. That might differ. Okay. So that's just a small introduction. This comes under the topic cognitive and behavioral aspects of self. Now, the first important part, we are going to learn about three important terms regarding the cognitive and behavioral aspects of self. The first one is self esteem. Self esteem. If you don't listen properly, you'll confuse with the three of them. So, the first one is self esteem. Self esteem. You know what self esteem is?
Judgment of ourselves.
Judgment of ourselves. Okay.
The importance
Hmm.
or the proudness we give to ourselves.
Hmm. Importance or proudness we give to us. What does the mean esteem mean? In invitations we see, we would like to have your esteemed presence, which means your presence is
Important.
important. It is valued. It is considered as worthy. Yeah. So self-esteem means Connect that.
The value we give to ourselves.
Yeah, the value we give to ourselves. The judgment we make about our own value or our own worth. That is self esteem. If you think that you're not valued by anyone, you're not worthy of anything, then you are having high self esteem or low self esteem.
Low self-esteem.
Low self esteem. If you think that you are valued by everyone, your life is considered as worthy, people, your friends, your family, they consider they consider you as important, they consider you with respect, they value you so much, they care for you so much, then you have a higher self esteem. Understood? That is a difference. Self esteem means the judgment that we make about our own self worth or self value. Understood? The judgment that we make about our own value or our own worth, that is known as self esteem. So what is the key word there? Judgment and value or worth. Okay, Grishma, read.
Self-esteem. Self-esteem is an important aspect of ourselves. As persons, we always make some judgment about our own value or worth. This value judgment of a person about herself or himself is called self-esteem.
Underline the two sentences, the one in italics and the second one. As persons, we always make some judgment about our own value or worth. This value judgment of a person about herself or himself is called self-esteem. Is that topic clear? Did you understand what that is? Okay. Then carry
Some
on.
people have high self-esteem, whereas others may have low self-esteem. In order to assess self-esteem, we present a variety of statements to a person and ask her or him to indicate the extent to which those statements are true for her or him.
Okay, so if I ask your family members whether you, suppose let's take Meghna. I'm asking Meghna's mom and dad, and you have a sibling, Meghna? No, you're single child. Okay, so if I'm asking her parents, how is her self-esteem? Does she have high self-esteem or low self-esteem? Will they be able to give proper information? Might vary. But if I ask her different statements, then she can give me more information than them, isn't it? Because it is self esteem. It is the judgment that she makes of how much value she is given or how much worth she is given. She is being given. Got it? So, what we do is generally in psychology, when we test self esteem, we give use questionnaires for this, and there will be statements related to the self esteem, like my best friend would choose me over anybody else if she has to hang out at her favorite place. Hmm? And you are supposed to answer yes or no. If she answers yes, then that indicates high self esteem or low self esteem.
High self-esteem.
High self esteem, because she is believing that she will be chosen, she has worth, she has importance in her friend's life. Got it? So that means that will indicate high self esteem. Similarly, if she chooses no, then that means that will be low self esteem. Got it? Okay. Similarly, so many statements will be given which the participant or the subject has to respond, like this. And based on the total score, we measure the self esteem of that particular person. So it is best to ask the person itself rather than asking around about self, if we are measuring self esteem. Got it? Okay, continue.
For example, we may ask a child to indicate the extent to which statements such as I am good at homework, or I am the one usually chosen for the games, or I am highly liked by my peers are true of her or him. If a child reports these statements to be true for her or his self-esteem will be high in comparison to someone who says no.
Yeah, simple, no? If the child indicates that all these statements are true regarding his or her life, then the child is more likely to have higher self-esteem. That's it. Then,
Studies indicate that by the age of 6 to 7 years, children seem to have formed self-esteem at least in 4 areas:
underline.
academic competence,
7
social
years.
competence,
Mm.
physical or athletic competence, and physical appearance, which become more refined with age.
Yeah. So academic competence, the competence in terms of academics, that is how well he or she can perform in terms of the education system. Academics, how much marks he or she scores, all those things. Then social competence, how much relationship or how much affiliation this person is trying to make with others, how much other people value his or her presence. Then physical or athletic competence, how much physical effort this person is able to make. And in sports or games, the coach might choose me as the captain, then that's a high self-esteem thing. Hmm? Then we have physical appearance. That is also part of the self-esteem. If the child thinks that I look very ugly, I am not looking fair, or I'm not looking good, then that will be a part of low self-esteem. Okay. Now, who would you think plays a major role in shaping this self-esteem in the child?
Family.
Family, parents,
Friends and teachers.
yeah, friends and teachers, people in the microsystem. Remember microsystem? Whose microsystem? Yuri
Bronfenbrenner.
Bronfenbrenner. Yuri Bronfenbrenner's microsystem. Okay, then go on.
Our capacity to view ourselves in terms of stable dispositions permits us to combine separate self-evaluations into a general psychological image of ourselves. This is known as an overall sense of self-esteem.
Underline that. This is known as overall sense of self-esteem.
Self-esteem shows a strong relationship with everyday behavior. For example, children with high academic self-esteem perform better in schools than those with low academic self-esteem, and children with high social self-esteem are more liked by their peers than those with low social self-esteem. On the other hand, children with low self-esteem in all areas are often found to display anxiety, depression, and increasing antisocial behavior.
Underline that. What are the characteristics or features of children who show very low self-esteem? Anxiety, depression, antisocial behaviors. These may be because of their underlying this self-esteem. So if you see somebody showing very anxious behaviors, or if you meet someone who is very depressed, or if you see somebody showing antisocial behavior, what do you mean by antisocial behaviors? Antisocial.
Things that are illegal or not good for the society.
Yeah, things that are illegal, not good for the society, things that may harm others. All those comes to the category of antisocial behaviors. Suppose a child is piercing the compass into one of the classmate. That is again an antisocial behavior. So you might think why this is happening. But some other people in the school might be interested in punishing the child, getting the other child to the hospital. But since we are studying psychology, we might be interested in understanding the reason behind the person's behavior. Why this child is showing such behavior. One reason might be the other problems going on inside the person. Another issue might be the rage that this child is having towards the other child. The other child might have done something similar to this person. So this person might be just responding or reacting. The other reason might be low self-esteem. Okay. So in order to hide his or her low self-esteem, this child might react in antisocial ways. Just to make sure that this low self-esteem thing is not evident to everyone. Other one might be anxiety, another one might be depression. Okay. So in the beginning of the class, I told you, whenever you come across a problem, you have to think from different perspectives. So depression as such might be a serious problem, but behind the depression, you might have problems like this. One you have already studied now, that is low self-esteem. Understood? Yes. So again, an important question that might come. You can write it down on the textbook, note it somewhere, or make another list and keep. What are the features of people who show low self-esteem? Anxiety, depression, and antisocial, increasing antisocial behavior. These are some of the symptoms, or some of the features.
Studies have shown that warm and positive parenting helps in the development of high self-esteem among children, as it allows them to know that they are accepted as competent and worthwhile.
Hmm.
Children whose parents help or make decisions for them even when they do not need assistance often suffer from low self-esteem.
Yes, that is also very important that most of the parents do not understand. Like they'll be just, haven't you heard love is blind? Yeah, love is not only between two people, it's among the whole family also, isn't it? That's the first love that we get from our parents. So what they do is, out of their care and love for their children, they tend to do each and everything for their children. Even though they know they do not need any assistance, these people try to help them in each and everything, and the child will become very much dependent on the parents for each and everything later on in life. And the child will be facing very much difficulty to do something on its own when they grow up. So again, that leads to low self-esteem. They'll think that finally I am not capable of doing anything. I am not competent in any other thing. That is why these parents are trying to help me in each and everything. Understood? So, what should be done from the parents' side to boost their self-esteem or to increase their self-esteem? What is your opinion?
By accepting the way they are,
By
by accepting the children the way they are.
accepting the children the way they are, then
Let the child do new things,
yes,
try out
allowing
new
the
things.
child, yeah, allowing the child to do something on his or her own. Then only the child understands that I am capable of doing something. I have this competencies in me. I don't have to depend on somebody else to do my things. That sense of independence is required at a certain age. Of course, when you grow up, when you are a toddler or when you are a really small baby, then of course you are dependent on your parents. They need to feed you, and that's how you learn how to feed yourself. They need to get you dressed up. That's how you learn how to get dressed up, isn't it? But if even if you grow into adulthood and then still your mom and dad is helping you dress up, will it be good? No. Will you have proper self esteem then? No. And finally, such children will end up thinking that I am really useless. I don't have any worth. I am just like a puppet. And such thoughts will come. All these are results of low self esteem. Okay. So, warm and positive. What is written there? Studies have shown that warm and positive parenting helps in the development of high self esteem among children, as it allows them to know that they are accepted and competent and worthwhile. They are accepted, They have to be accepted in the family first. Then they have to be competent. Competent means they have to explore their own capabilities of doing different things. Let it be just combing hair, let it be just brushing their teeth on their own, let it be just folding their own clothes, let it be just cleaning their own wardrobe. Each and everything counts to their self esteem. Got it? And then later on, they understand that they are worthy of this life. They have importance, they have value, they are capable of doing something. All these things boost their one more thing, that is self confidence. Okay? Then, children whose parents help or make decisions for them even when they do not need assistance. That is the point to be noted there. Even when they do not need help, these parents go and help them. Even though they do not need any help, they go and assist them. They give them aids. Okay, aids means help. Okay, so this is how the self esteem might go down. The level of self esteem might go down in such children. So, warm and positive parenting is important in boosting the self esteem of children. And what is the age? Studies indicate that by the age of 6 to 7 years, children seem to have formed self esteem at least in 4 areas. Note that age also, 6 to 7 years. What was the developmental period we discussed earlier in the chapter? Not in this, the previous one. Developmental period
0 to 18.
0 to 18. Okay. Did you understand what self-esteem is? Okay. So keywords to be used here. Self-esteem is judgment and worth or value. Okay. Now, the second one is self-efficacy. Self-efficacy. Any idea what self-efficacy is? Self-efficacy. Have you heard any word similar to efficacy?
Efficiency.
Efficiency. Any other terms? That's all. Okay, let's read and see. Elvina.
Self-efficacy is another important aspect of ourselves. People differ in the extent to which they believe they themselves control their life outcomes, or the outcomes are controlled by luck or fate or other situational factors. Example, passing an examination. A person
How
who
many?
believes
Wait, just a minute. How many of you think that if you really study well, you can get good marks or you can pass the exam? Only three of you? Four. Amal, what do you think? How can you pass the exam?
We should study also, and luck is also needed for passing.
Okay. Half, 50-50? Okay. So you're neutral, no problem.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, there are people who think that only luck is the factor that determines our success in life. Whatever we do, how much ever we try, there is no use. Only the luck factor can determine our success. Understood? Such people will have low self efficacy, which means they don't believe themselves, they don't believe their own efficiency. They don't understand what powers they have, they don't understand what they can do, they don't understand what change they can make. Such people have low self efficacy. If you think that you can work hard and you can reach your goals, then you have high self efficacy. Understood the difference? So what is the difference with self esteem and efficacy? Self esteem means you judge that you have a certain value or worth. But here, what is self efficacy? It is based on your capabilities, your competencies, your efficiency in doing something. the power to do something. If you believe that you have that power in you, then you are self-efficient. Self-efficacy is there in you. It's high in you. Got it? Okay, continue.
A person who believes that he has the ability or behaviors required by a particular situation demonstrates high self-efficacy.
Underline. A person who believes that she or he has the ability or behaviors required by a particular situation demonstrates high self-efficacy. So if you think that you can dance well, then that means you have high self-efficacy there. You're an efficient dancer. You think that you are an efficient dancer. Okay, that's showing your high self-efficacy in that terms, in that field. Then
The notion of self-efficacy is based on Bandura's social learning theory.
important. Mark it. One mark question. The notion
Bandura,
of the notion of self-efficacy is based on which theory of learning? That is Albert Bandura's social learning theory. Sneha, I think you don't know what social learning theory is, isn't it? Who will explain to her? Simplified capsule, social learning theory. Who will give her? Somebody help me.
In it, we learn by observing the society or the environment around.
First of all, I have told you, whenever you write a theory, what should you write along with it? The person who proposed it. Who proposed social learning theory?
Albert Bandura.
Albert Bandura. It's a person called Albert Bandura. Okay, Sneha? Okay, then.
He held an experiment in which he used the Bobo doll.
Bobo doll. Do you know what?
How do I explain it? Like in doll is there. Like if we push it back or front, anywhere if you push it, it won't fall down. It will rotate like this.
Even if you hit it hard, it will just go slanting and then it will come back in the same position. Have you seen that? Yeah, you have some air-filled dolls also. Not the stuffed doll type, the air-filled ones. On the roadside and all, we have dolphin shaped and all those shapes. Yeah. That something similar to that was used by Albert Bandura. That is called a Bobo doll. Okay, saved.
So there were few children and they were divided into 3 groups. And in the experiment, he showed a video to these children. For the first group, the video was like, one child was hitting the Bobo doll and finally he got punished for hitting it. Then for the second group, he got rewarded instead of being punished for hitting the Bobo doll. And the third group was not shown at the last what was if he was rewarded or punished. Like nothing was shown. He just hit the doll and the video ended.
Video was over.
Then these group of children, those 3 groups, they were sent to a room in which a similar room that like the shown in the video, and there was a Bobo doll in the middle. And the first group children who were shown as rewarded, like the boy was rewarded for the first group. So the first group children hit the Bobo doll, thinking that they would get rewarded.
They would get rewarded. So those who saw the model means in the video there was a person or a child or a boy hitting the Bobo doll, and the person was rewarded. The person got reward for hitting the Bobo doll. The children who watched this video, they did the same behavior. They did the imitation. That is why this type of learning was earlier known as imitation. Okay, now it is known as
Social learning.
social learning, observational learning, or modeling. Okay, yeah. Then anything else?
The second group didn't hit the doll because they thought they would get punished. And what did the third group do, ma'am?
Third group, most of them were unlikely. Among the three, the first group were exactly imitating the behavior, showing aggressiveness towards the Bobo doll. Among that's the general result that we usually discuss. The first group, about the first group. Second group feared punishment. That's why they did not do much. Okay. So here we are talking about social learning. Social learning, by in that theory only, Albert Bandura is describing about self-efficacy. Okay, now carry on. Who was the person reading? Elvina. Okay.
Bandura's initial studies showed that children and adults learned behavior by observing and imitating
See,
others.
that's the thing. The theme of this social learning or observational learning is children learn by observing and imitating others. That is the concept, general concept. Okay, then.
People's expectations of mastery or achievement and their convictions about their own effectiveness also determine the types of behavior in which they would engage, as also the amount of the risk they would undertake. A strong sense of self-efficacy allows people to select, influence, and even construct the circumstances of their own life. People with a strong sense of self-efficacy also feel less fearful.
That
Self
paragraph is very important. Mark it. What are the characteristics of people with high self-efficacy? Write a question and keep. So we discussed till observing and imitating others. After that, people's expectations of mastery or achievement and their convictions. Convictions means ideas. Here, ideas about their own effectiveness also determine the types of behavior in which they would engage, as also the amount of risk they would undertake. So, if you think that you are capable of doing something, you are very much confident that you have skills in this, you are very competent in this, then you have a general idea of what you are really doing or what you are really capable of, then you would certainly do it, isn't it? Even if it involves risk, if you are very confident, then you are more likely to do it. Yes or no? Yes. Give me an example for that.
For example, bungee jumping. If you believe in yourself, you can jump.
Yeah. If you really believe that you can do it, you can overcome your fears, then you think you're efficient to do it. So, of course, you jump, isn't it? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Then,
and uh, self-efficacy can be developed. People with high self-efficacy have been found to stop smoking the moment they decide to do so. Our
hmm,
society, our parents, and our own positive experiences can help in the development of a strong sense of self-efficacy by presenting positive models during the formative years of children.
yeah, again, positive models are required. Positive models means the first we learn from our family, from our houses. That is the first school, actually, that we are going through. So, there we need positive models. If we see our parents always quarreling, always fighting, always having bad values, and not following the rules and regulations, then the child will also model the same. They'll observe and imitate the same. Unless the child gets a punishment for something, also developed. Understood the difference between self-efficacy and self-esteem? Yes or no? Yes, self-esteem is the judgment or the value judgment that you give to your own self. Person who gives value or a person who thinks that he or she has a value will have high or low self-esteem. Should I repeat the question? A person who thinks that he or she is valued by the peer group, maybe by the teachers, by the parents, siblings, and all, or the person who thinks that he or she has some worth, then that person tends to have high self esteem or low self esteem.
High self-esteem.
High self esteem, yes. And that is the concept of self esteem. The keywords are the value judgments or the judgments based on your value or worth. Okay. Then self efficacy, what does it denote? Denotes how much capable you are of doing something, how much efficient you are in doing something. That is self efficacy. If you think you are good at something, then you tend to take risks. Even if it involves risk, you might do that particular thing. For example, bungee jumping, as she told. Okay, so that means you think you are self efficient. You are efficient in yourself. You can do it on your own. Understood? Okay. Now, one more part that is coming up is self regulation. I think that we'll discuss in the next class. Otherwise, everything will be a mixture. Just turn to the previous lesson and come to the topic of emotional quotient, emotional intelligence. Page number 17. They are characteristics of emotionally intelligent persons. That's given on in a box. Amal, please read it out.
Characteristics of emotionally intelligent person.
Mm.
Perceive and be sensitive to your feelings and emotions.
Mm.
Perceive and be sensitive to various type of emotions in others by think their body language, voice, and
Noting,
tone.
not nothing, noting.
uh,
Noting their body language.
Noting their body language, voice, and tone and facial expressions.
Mm.
Relate your emotions to your thoughts so that you take them into
Into
account
account.
while solving problems and taking decisions.
Mm.
Understand the powerful influence of the nature and intensity of your emotions.
Mm.
Control and regulate your emotions and their expressions while dealing with self and other to achieve harmony or peace.
Harmony and peace. Yes. So these are the characteristics of emotionally intelligent people, which means the people who have high, high what?
EQ.
EQ, emotional quotient. Okay. If intelligence, the general intelligence is measured in terms of IQ, intelligence quotient, then emotional intelligence is measured in terms of EQ, emotional quotient. Okay, Sneha. Yeah. And these are the characteristics. So, what was the definition for emotional intelligence? Or what was the general concept? Can anybody say?
To monitor one's own and others' emotions,
Hmm.
to discriminate among them,
Hmm.
then act according
Act
accordingly.
according to that. Yes. You have to know what your emotions are. You have to know what the other person's emotions are. Find the relationship, connect it, monitor it, regulate it, and then use it for upcoming events. Okay, that is generally emotional intelligence. So these are the characteristics. Perceive our own emotions, use it, be sensitive to it, be alert to that. Then, similarly with others' emotions, how will you understand another person's emotions? If that person is not telling you this is emotion that I'm going through, how will you understand?
Observe the body language.
Then, Reina, aspiring psychologist, tell me, how would you understand another person's emotion?
Like by talking to them and by their body language and all.
Body language is one thing. Then,
By like talking to them,
talking to them. By talking to them, what will you get from them?
like
What information?
like by the tone of talking
Tone of talking. Yes.
and
Then,
facial expression.
facial expression. Then, basically, that's
Why
it.
like while they're talking and all, they do such things like tapping the foot like
Mannerisms.
like
Yeah,
rest.
mannerisms. That's also included in body language. Then the micro expressions. Then eye contact. Remember when we built rapport, we discussed many things. So eye contact. All these things might explain to us or describe to us about other people's emotions. Okay. Then what else is there? Relate your emotion to your thoughts. Suppose you're in a very bad mood. You are really pissed off at someone, and then when you were walking through the corridor, one child came running. Okay, and the child hit you. You hit the wall, and you're again even more angry. Okay, you give one on the face of the child. Okay, this is the situation. So, can I call you emotionally intelligent? No. Why?
Because we aren't capable of handling our own emotion.
Yes, we are not capable of handling our own emotions. This is the usual habit of children. Children might come running, they might go running, they might hit us on the way. You know that. This happens. But usually on other days, you just let them go. But this day, you were very angry with yourself and with somebody else. There was so much anger, and the emotional expressions were piled up inside you. Okay, and you could not relate to this, that this child is running, this is the usual habit of child. You could not relate your emotions to the thoughts that you're going through. So what happened? You reacted in a very bad way to the child. I'm not taking the side of the child. The child should also be careful, but still, you being a grown up, you also have to be careful. Okay, so that is another factor, or that is another characteristic. Relate your emotions to your thoughts so that you take them into account while solving problems and taking decisions. Giving a rap on the child's face was a decision that you took in that situation, isn't it? So before that, if you would have thought, I am already angry, that is why I'm feeling so frustrated at myself and the child. Usually when this child comes running, I don't do this. So if you would have related your thought to your emotions, then you wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have reacted in such a way. So that is again a characteristic of people with high EQ. Then it's not very easy as it is given in the textbook, but by practice, you can. Trust me, you can. You really can. Then understand the powerful influence of the nature and intensity of your emotions. That is trying to really realize or recognize to what extent your emotions can make you do things that if you sit and analyze, not when you were angry or when you gave the child a rap, but when you're cool down, when your parasympathetic system really works and you are really in a calm mode, you sit and analyze what went wrong. What would have been the ways that I would have reacted? What can I do next time when this happens? Or what can I do to prevent myself from such a situation? How can I deal with such a situation? All these things can help you build your emotional intelligence. And these people with high emotional intelligence, they don't need to build it because that is there in them. Okay, they react in such a way. They really understand how much powerful their emotions are, how much destruction their emotions might cause, and how much positive impacts their emotions might cause. All these things they really understand. Okay, then control and regulate your emotions and their expressions while dealing with self and to others to achieve harmony and peace. As I said above, in the above example itself, you can control, you can regulate, you can channel your emotions in another ways. Okay, instead of really reacting, you can try to respond in a mild manner, or you can just channel your emotions to another ways, through other ways. I'll tell you an example. Have you seen the movie not Big Boss, My Boss? My Boss? What does the guy do when he's angry at the boss?
Then he will go to toilet and just crash the bucket.
Yeah. He'll go to the toilet easily. He'll go to the washroom, break the bucket, and come back, isn't it? That is a form of psychological method, actually. It is known as catharsis. You'll get to know about it when we study therapies and disorders and all. It's catharsis, channeling your emotions. I'm not telling you to break buckets in your washroom, but channel it in a good way so that your and none of your properties and assets are lost. Otherwise, your parents will only have time to keep buying the buckets in the washroom. Okay, where is our short tempered guy today? Not present. Ashish, what happened? He used to attend all the classes. Who are absent today? Ashish, Mehek, Amal K. Saji. Anybody else? No. No, right? Okay. So that's it. I forgot to mention that characteristics of emotional intelligent person. That's why I mentioned now. Okay. Self-esteem and self-efficacy. Clear? Clear. Okay. Have you started studying for the test? Please start. Otherwise, I'm warning you again, there'll be a lot to finish. And by the time we have the test, I think we'll reach 1/4 or at least half of this chapter also. So again, after that, you'll have to study this also. Okay. So sit and study the other chapter, but keep reading this chapter also. And reduce time for your BTS and all. Okay, it's almost time. So go and have lunch. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.